why there is a hybridization program underway. But they are physical entities. They are not multidimensional beings. They are not spiritual agents.
Came here in physical craft?
That's right. And they're motivated by the same things that motivate us. And so we're dealing with a physical reality. In fact, it's interesting when you think about this in terms of nature. I mean, nature, one of the aspects of nature, laws of nature, is competition and intervention. I mean, species intervene upon one another. And now we, who have lived in isolation for a very long time, are now facing competition from beyond.
Let's talk,
should be expected.
Can, Marshall, about this 10 points of the allies of humanity that they basically have given you. These 10 points were created for what reason?
Well, these 10 points were actually, I wrote these points in order to clarify what the briefings were actually communicating, because
it's the Cliff Notes version.
It's kind of the Cliff Notes version, it is. But to actually read the briefings and to hear their regard for us, it's very high. They actually claim that on a spiritual level, we're pretty advanced, because other technological races in the universe have become entirely secular, and some of these races have never had a religion. And so we actually, because we've been able to keep our spiritual traditions alive, because the power and presence of knowledge within us hasn't been killed, it's not dead yet, we actually represent a real promise for other races. And I think that that is one of the reasons that the Allies do value us in our potential. If we can deal with our own environmental problems here on Earth, and if we can keep ourselves from giving away our sovereignty to foreign and intervening races in the interim.
All right, let's go through some of the points, if we can. What do you see as the most pressing problem?
The most pressing problem regarding contact is we're facing intervening forces who are here to take advantage of a weak and divided humanity, and that we are not recognizing the nature of their presence and the purpose. This is a premature contact, and I want to make this point because I think it's important here. The briefings indicate that we're not really ready for contact.
Do you think we're not?
Humanity is not ready for contact.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that, because we do not have the species maturity to face a greater community of intelligent life with the strength, unity, and necessary discernment we would need. We're divided, we're bogged down, we're actually losing ground here on Earth, and this makes us tremendously vulnerable to foreign intervention and persuasion, and this is one of the things that the Allies of Humanity briefings warn us about. They say if we deplete our resources, we will put ourselves in a position of extreme vulnerability and powerlessness in the universe.
And those resources they believe to be oil, I would assume.
Oh, well, certainly. All the things that sustain a human civilization, energy resources, food resources, water, all the things now that are moving into a crisis condition all around the world.
Is it because we have too many people?
We are overusing and misusing our natural inheritance in this world, and certainly a growing population requires that we cease our endless conflicts and that we begin to distribute equally these kinds of resources that are sustaining for human civilization. Otherwise, we are going to drive ourselves into a kind of permanent decline.
But they're not advocating, let's say, reducing the 6.5 billion of us down to 500 million like some would like.
They don't make any recommendations about that, and certainly if that were to be done, it would have to be done over time in an ethical manner. But they do claim that we have the solutions for all of our problems right here on Earth. And they warn us against accepting extraterrestrial technology.
Against accepting it? Why?
Against accepting it. Because if we accept that technology, one, it will be turned into weapons research immediately by the competing governments of the world. It will make us dependent upon any race that provides this technology to us, therefore undermining our self-determination, our sovereignty within this world, because when you become dependent upon foreign technology, you become dependent on those foreign powers that provide it.
So you don't think ET technology will solve our problems? You think it'll add to it?
I think ET technology will complicate our situation and add to our problems immensely. It's extremely unwise, because we could end up in the future, giving away the keys to our kingdom, for trinkets from space. And as the native peoples of the world who are uneducated regarding the greater community in which we live, who do not yet have the criteria to determine friend from foe in the universe, and who are in a position to be easily persuaded or manipulated by intervening forces, it would be extremely unwise for us to accept gifts and promises from forces that we do not know and have not proven themselves to be trustworthy.
There are some who believe that we have captured craft, down craft, we've reversed technology. Do you think this has happened?
Oh, it probably has happened. But nonetheless, if we're offered technology, then it's an inducement. And if it's an inducement from a foreign race who seeks to gain ascendancy and control in our world, then we're putting ourselves in jeopardy by receiving things like this. Anything that we capture, that's a different story. I mean, that actually could help us accelerate our technology, which will be important.
Well, I don't know. They should step in, Marshall.
The allies of humanity should step in?
Yes.
Well, it's interesting why they say they won't, because they say if humanity is going to be a free race in the universe, it must establish its unity and power in the universe.
Yeah, but already, as you say, there's a hybridization program underway. How are we going to stop that?
We stop that by carrying out the steps that the Allies briefings indicate, which begins with discernment and education. As long as we are unaware that this is happening in our midst, or as long as we're falling under persuasion that this is happening to our benefit, this will continue basically unimpeded. The intervention that's occurring in the world today will establish its network of supporters and apologists, and there will be very few critics. Now, because this is depending on human allegiance and acquiescence, that allegiance and acquiescence must stop. And I think that is the core message, that I want to communicate tonight, because humanity is in a very vulnerable position right now, and there are very powerful influences in our midst that we don't understand, that we have not adapted to. So the briefings indicate, and I hope we can get into this tonight, the importance of knowledge, because the universe that we're entering into in the greater community is an environment of tremendous influence.
But knowledge in what facet?
I'm going to get to that in a moment.
Right.
This environment of influence, the ability to influence the thinking, perceptions, and feelings of others, represents a kind of power that we as human beings have only begun to explore. I mean, certainly influence is carried out in every household in America and by every government in our world.
Sure.
But the kind of influence that we're facing is of a much more powerful and focused nature. And the one thing within us that cannot be influenced, the one part of our deeper nature that cannot be influenced, is represented by this deeper intelligence called knowledge. The more connected you are to this knowledge, the more free you are from any kind of influence, be it human or extraterrestrial. And we know here on Earth the power of influence that's being generated by governments and commercial forces. And it's tremendous in terms of governing how people think and what they do and how they perceive things. We're entering now a more potent environment of influence. So I'd like to read you this passage. This is from the first set of briefings on the briefing called The Threshold, A New Promise for Humanity. And I'd like to read this now. Quote, "You are far behind the visitors in your technological development, so you must rely upon knowledge. It is the greatest force in the universe, and your visitors do not use it. It is your only hope."
But the knowledge for what, Marshall?
We're talking about knowledge now, not in terms of information, but as a deeper intelligence that is within us, that it makes us immune to influence. If the intervention is relying upon influence to achieve its goal, then our ability to resist that influence is absolutely fundamental. And this is the same knowledge that, of course, enables us to make wise decisions in our lives, in our relationships, in all aspects of our lives. This knowledge is not the things that are usually associated with it. It's not ideas. It's not information. It's not a system of belief. It more represents the deeper mystery of our life. And I think that we're tuning in to this greater community reality because of knowledge, because we